When Turtle Beach expanded for what they're most well known for, their headsets, and got into the controller world in August of 21 with the Recon controller, which I had the pleasure of testing out about a month prior to public release. And at the $60 price point, I really enjoyed it. Fast forward a little over a year to August of 22, and TB released the Reactor, a stripped down version of the Recon that had all the main features of its predecessor, but for $20 cheaper. But when the turtle popped out of its shell to grab a piece of crisp iceberg lettuce and tell me there's a new controller on the horizon, when I saw pictures and videos and read the tech sheet on this controller, I was immediately excited. However, I've got to say, over the last 3 days of testing it, despite one major issue which I'm confident will get massaged out prior to public launch in 2 days, it is now my favorite Xbox controller, and I do not say that lightly because I've tested dozens of them. Grab a snack, crack a brew, you're sober, grab a soda instead, hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up because you're going to like the video even though it just started. If you're here for a specific aspect of this controller, check out the description and the timeline as they are stamped with chapters that you can jump around. But if you're in the market for this controller, I strongly advise watching the entire video as it is plugged full of information on this new gamepad from Turtle Beach. Let's get it.
This is your controller captain. We've reached 6,900 feet. Go ahead and start flicking the sticks and mollywopping the back paddles.
You don't like back paddles? How about those rear buttons? We've tested almost 100 custom and premium controllers, and we're only at the beginning. You need a thumbstick guide or tutorial on how to overclock your controller? Check out the controller playlist.
Bing bong.
Controller captain out.
A quick disclaimer for my audience, the Stallions and Stallionettes, this controller was sent for an early review. However, this is going to be an honest, comprehensive review. I haven't been paid or told to say anything about it, so if there's any cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement, you're going to hear about it, so these companies make better products over time. As for the packaging, included accessories on Turtle Beach's latest and greatest, their most expensive flagship, the Stealth Ultra. They ain't gonna see you coming because you're stealth, and you were also built different. Built to win. As this is a licensed Xbox product, you are going to have that lime green stamp and sigil from the desk of Phil Spencer. Well, actually, it's Sarah Bond now. Now, despite being a relatively small box, there are 4 clear wafer stickers that will need sliced in order to see your premium flagship beast. Flipping this bad boy on the side, if you want to pause and zoom to read some of the key features, you may do so now. And the side, there's more text over here. Platform-wise, this will work with Xbox One, Series S and X, Windows 10 or 11 PCs, and anything running Android 9 and up, so phones, tablets, etc. There's also a good chance this will work on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch with an adapter or converter, which we will be testing in this video. I do like that there is a little cloth grab strap at the top so you can carry it out of Best Buy like a purse and schwack people with it in the parking lot if they try and get buck. I don't usually do this, but I lied. There's not 4 wafer stickers, there's 5. They really don't want you in this thing. Now, as you pop this box open from the side, moderately damaging it, you are going to see their catchphrase again, built to win, which I will say is a lot less cringe, silly, wacky, or off the wall versus some of its competitors, which either have typos or just sound downright silly. SteelSeries, calling themselves the winningest brand in esports, and Turtle Beach with Built to Win are kind of normal in the grand scheme of catchphrases, marketing slogans, and taglines. Madmen. Now, the box itself is very simplistic. There's no laser cut foam holding your flagship in place, but you do have an included carrying case, which I do like for a couple of reasons. Cosmetically, this plum looks pretty sick. Nice little rubber pull tab. And this is a pretty hard carrying case, much harder than most of its competitors. In fact, I can't press down the left or right analog stick, clicking in L3 and R3, so that is a good sign that you'll get good protection with this little carrying case. You do have a pass-through for your USB-C port, so you can charge it while in the carrying case, and a little strap if you want to hang this from your backpack to increase your chances of getting robbed. Also, in the very bottom of that box, you are going to have some additional documentation and a little Turtle Beach sticker, which is probably the lowest quality of all of its competitors, which generally have a little holographic foil effect and are high resolution, but it's a damn palm tree. And your instruction manual, pamphlet, or brochure is actually a quick start guide. You do have a large diagram on the first page with a breakout of all the parts, and it shows you how to use that massive screen, which is somewhat gimmicky, but we'll talk about it later. It is wrapped in a plastic sneeze guard, not what I expected. Ooh, that is also not at all what I expected. I have never seen this interior, this cockpit, if you will. This is kind of a suede or Alcantara. Look, yeah, that's nice. This was transported directly from a Carrera 911 GT3, so very nice upholstery in here. As I busted the biscuits out of the first bag, I was greeted with a silica gel packet. Dispose of that properly so your children and pets don't get a hand of it. And something I noticed immediately, this controller has something sticking off the back of it. I'm assuming it's the charging dock, but it's actually, there it is. It was magnetized to the back of the controller as soon as I grabbed it out of the case. The other bag was holding a 10-foot braided USB-C cable. No dust covers on the USB-A or C in, but you do have a nice Velcro tie back that you can keep, and it does stay connected. Love that. Also, this is adequate length at 10 foot, relatively lightweight and flexible, not like the hyperspeed cords from Razer for their mice, but still very nice. Speaking of very nice, I really like this included charging solution. It's very similar to the Microsoft Elite Series 2, as it does have this little suede cover, so you're not scratching the bottom of your plastic on your controller. You have these 3 little pogo pins, which are going to make contact with these 3 pads on the back and charge your controller. That's actually really easy to miss. There's a small container or pouch in the top here, which is going to contain your 2.4 gigahertz dongle, which is how you're going to be going wireless. Yes, this does have Bluetooth, and we'll test that means of connectivity later, but I would recommend going with the 2.4 gigahertz dongle, as generally you're going to have much better consistency and peak speeds versus Bluetooth. Although I know Bluetooth is getting up there now. We're at 5.4, and some consumer electronic goodies, such as the Steam Deck OLED, are starting to adopt 5.3, which is freaking fast. Still, the dongle's nice. I wish it had a little dust cover on it. No big deal though. Does feel a little bit cheap. There's also a little button, not the most satisfying thing to click, but it does have a little LED indicator that will let you know the status of your pairing. Now, Turtle Beach's solution for thumbstick caps isn't the best. They're using some universal slipovers, basically like little condoms. They just snap over the top, so not something like KontrolFreeks, and definitely not swappable johns that are magnetized or held on with friction, so you can swap them out for different heights, maybe different shapes, such as domed or concaved. No, if you don't like the feeling of these stock caps, which we'll talk about these later, you can extend them ever so slightly with a little bit more height and a little bit, well, not more, but different grip or surface. You've got these little ribbed for her pleasure design, and then you've got these 4 dibbly dots. But I do want to mention quickly, these are smaller than any other thumbstick I've ever seen. The circle is physically smaller diameter-wise, which makes them seem like either a mobile controller or maybe a handheld like the ROG Ally or Nintendo Switch. These aren't full-size thumbstick caps, which is the weirdest decision I've ever seen. That almost forces you to need to use the included caps. As for cosmetics or appearance, I think Turtle Beach absolutely nailed it, going with this kind of bronze or brass on the lower piece, rubberized grips on the side, and this black plastic on the top. The screen also looks pretty good, especially when it's on. You get the bright, vibrant colors, as it is full color display. And I also really do like this aluminum D-pad, which not only feels great, but cosmetically looks fantastic. Around top, you do have the brushed silver bumper and triggers, which are just plastic painted silver, but do feel very nice. And the only part I'm cosmetically not too flattered by is going to be the back, as the plastics don't look and feel the best, but I do like the appearance of the rear buttons, and I also do like that there's no exposed screws. They are underneath these little covers or shrouds, keep everything looking nice and clean back here. That sticker can go or be smaller, maybe be at the bottom. I understand this has to be on consumer electronic devices, all your regulatory information, but it doesn't have to be that big or in that location. Also, if you fucked up your controller, there's a little slot where you can shove a sim popper or a needle and reset your controller's board. But cosmetically, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. As for the ergonomics or comfort, this is one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever held. First of all, the dimensions are almost identical to the shape and shell design of an Xbox One or Series controller, except Turtle Beach went a little bit more aggressive with this cut-in, and also these palm grips are a little bit more rounded than Xbox One or Series controllers, which I do like. Then you get the rubberized grips on the side. Oop, ring light died. Nice, let's plug it back in. Quick note, if you own the Lume Cube ring light, it's pretty good, except the battery life sucks wiener. Of course, you can go wired like I used to do with my Elgato ring light. That's what I recommend you do, so you have consistent power to your ring light, but their battery life is terrible. And then it says on the indicator that it's at 100% until it just dies. So there's no reading of your battery life. 50%, 70%, nah man, you're either 100 or your ring light dies in the middle of your YouTube video. I absolutely love the rubber compound on here. It's a little bit slick and not that grippy, but it does feel incredibly nice and supple on your palms. The surface that's making contact with your hands feels phenomenal. Very satiny, silky, if you will. And also because it has this diamond pattern cut into it, that will help with cooling, so if you get sweaty palms, that should mitigate that. You do also have RGB lighting around those palm grips, which you can control, but I'm 5'11", got these skinny, gangly bad boys for fingers, and this controller feels like a dream. It's gonna be a goddamn nightmare for my opponents in the lobby, but for me, it's a dream. You ain't gonna wake up from it. I know you're waiting around for a number. I can't go to the next segment until I slap a grade on it, so let's just 9.5 and call it a day. I don't even know what would get it that extra half point. I mean, this is just, we're getting to a point now. How comfortable can a controller get? Eventually, you're not even gonna feel the thing in your hand. As for the perceived build quality, it's actually really good. This isn't necessarily a heavy controller, popping up on screen in grams, but I've never really subscribed to the camp that a heavier controller has more premium build quality, because we saw the PowerA Fusion 1 and 2 putting fishing weights in the palms, basically those lead sinkers, to try and fool fool the consumer into thinking, heavy controller, it's built durable. That simply isn't the case, and having done teardowns or disassemblies on dozens of controllers from multiple manufacturers, the internals or guts matter just as much as the outside plastics. But what you're gonna feel on the outside of this controller when you wrap your hands around these palm grips is a happy story for you, as all the surfaces feel nice, the plastics, the rubber on the palm grips, the mechanical face buttons. Good resistance on the triggers, nice click on the bumpers, no crazy panel gaps where the front faceplate and rear shell meet. I will say the 3.5mm headphone jack looks a little bit cheap, but it does on damn near every controller. And my biggest complaint here is just going to be the plastics on the back look and feel incredibly cheap, but as long as you're not dropping the sucker, that really shouldn't matter. And even if you do have a whoopsie-daisy, warranty section coming up now. And as for a warranty, all Turtle Beach controllers are covered with a 1-year standardized warranty. As for the D-pad or direction buttons, it's a mixed sack, but mostly the satchel is full of good things. There's a couple of stinky things in that sack, but mostly good things. I really like the D-pad. First of all, ergonomically, this has a shape unlike anything I've seen before. It is a hybrid, so it has a typical 4-point as well as a wheel. We see that on a lot of controllers, but with this version, it is much more of a wheel and much less of a 4-point. That in combination with the surface material being metal and having these little circles etched or machined in actually feels very nice on your fingertip. And if you rest your thumb right in the center, you are able to hit all 8 directions seamlessly as roll-offs are a breeze. And you do have individual gates or notches for the diagonal inputs, which I love. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is it is a little bit loud. Not quite as noisy as the Razer micro switches on their D-pad. It's getting up there. But overall, I am a huge fan of this D-pad, and the fact that there's no swappable option isn't even a dilemma or deal, because the one installed option is very good. I'm gonna give the D-pad a 9 out of 10. Repeat, 9 out of 10. My hair's completely fucked and there's zero chance of me doing it, so I decided to pop a lid on. It's a little bit confusing because we're reviewing an Xbox controller and I'm wearing a PlayStation hat, but it matches the olive drab of the shirt, so it's on my head now. As for the face or action buttons, they're gonna get you in the action. They are mechanical and have a very quick actuation. I would say about 0.1 millimeters. It is instantaneous. Also, the resistance is a perfect balance of being light, but also having to be intentional with your presses, so you shouldn't get any accidental actuations. What I do not like is going to be the cosmetic appearance. They're black with glittery silver lettering, and then they have a crystal jewel or dome over it, and I just think it looks pretty damn cheap, and that's my only cosmetic gripe about this controller. Everything else looks gorgeous. But as far as size, spacing, and placement, no complaints with these face or action buttons. I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. I couldn't find any tap life cycle if they're rated for a certain million amount of clicks or anything, but they do feel good, and that's got to count for something. Actually, I found it. It's in this reviewer's guide. It's rated for 5 million clicks. Now, as for the accessory button suite, so that is going to be this massive Xbox jewel in the center, your pause and option buttons. Oh my god, I've just woken it up and the RGB is... My camera just overheated or corrupted or something and cut the video clip mid-jaw jack or lip smack. Been running into a lot of technical issues behind the scenes. Computer problems, camera problems, microphone problems, personal problems. Not your problem, my problem. About these accessory buttons, they work, they're in a good place, they're easy to hit. I'm gonna give them a 6 out of 10. Why they don't get a higher score? They do feel recycled from previous projects, do feel a little bit cheap. The screen is its own beast, which is coming up in the next segment because I do want to talk about it extensively and give you a walkthrough of what the sucker does. Some of the features are pretty cool, a couple of them are the opposite of cool. Also, if I'm talking faster than I usually do, which is already pretty fast because I'm a motor mouth, I got that natural methamphetamine in the veins, I guess. I don't know. I'm terrified of my camera dying mid-recording again because it's overheating, so that's why I'm talking like I'm on Heisenberg's Blue Magic. As for the thumbstick caps, they are smaller diameter-wise than pretty much any console or PC controller that I've tested. It's very reminiscent of a mobile controller or like a handheld device like a Steam Deck or a Lenovo Legion Go, as they're about 15% smaller circle-wise. Remember this thing from back in the day? That's not what I was trying to do to you. I'm just showing you these things are kind of small, but as far as KontrolFreek compatibility, which if you're picking up a pair, I do have an exclusive discount in the description below. PS4 and 5 caps, too loose and wiggly, as are the Nintendo Switch joints, but the Xbox ones, which are the smallest millimeter-wise, do snap on. They don't pop off or anything, but they do rotate pretty freely. You could use them, they do work. Now, these are also Hall Effect thumbstick modules that are virtually stick drift proof unless that recentering spring goes out on you, which can and does happen, but far less likely than potentiometer thumbstick modules, which have like 3 common points of failure. I'm gonna give the thumbsticks not a damn thing yet because we haven't tested them on the PC. I'll give them a grade over there. But as of now, they have anti-friction rings, which I do like because those are not on all Xbox controllers. It's a standard feature on the PS5 DualSense, but with the Xbox controllers, even premium or pro controllers don't always have that feature. It is nice when you're at full lock to glide along smooth plastic on the outside of your thumbstick gates. Clicking down L3 and R3, Also pretty tight and secure.
Let's take it to the PC for a little testing though.
Over here in Gamepad Tester, we are recognized as an Xbox 360 controller. What's happening? It went unresponsive for a second, but we are A-OK now. As you can see, both of these thumbsticks snap back to a perfect resting value of 0.00002. Also, as soon as I break neutral and get away from that dead zone, my inputs are being registered. So these have very taut inner dead zones. As far as the outer dead zones, I am able to reach the outside of the thumbstick gate, no problem. This will be shown a little bit more clearly during the circularity test, which we're going to run right now. And as you can see, some of the best Hall Effect thumbstick modules that we have seen, because not all Hall Effect thumbstick modules are created equal. And I think 2023 has been the year of showing us that thus far, HE thumbstick modules have been a huge marketing gimmick hype feature, as there have been more shitty quality HE thumbstick modules on the market than there has been well implemented ones like we've seen from CoolieKit, GameSir, HYPR, and now apparently Turtle Beach. You can still get stick drift with Hall Effect thumbstick modules, despite the fact Turtle Beach has decided to put anti-drift on the front of their controller. It's much less likely, but it could happen. But something you're not going to have to worry about with these thumbstick modules is them being inaccurate pieces of poop out of the box, as they have a perfect resting value, very tight, very responsive, and very accurate in the circularity test. Thumbsticks are going to be a 9 out of 10 for me. If these are regular size diameter caps, it'd be a 10 out of 10 for me. These are virtually perfect. Also, include swappable options, not the little slip over joints that you got for 30 cents a pop, but some actual magnetized taller stems or shafts that might have domed or concaved, other shapes, other options. That is an expected feature with a premium or pro controller. You're going to have swappable thumbstick caps, trigger stops, and remappable rear buttons. One of the key features of this controller by far is going to be the command or CMD screen, which is a 1.5 inch or 37 millimeter screen.
So about the same size as an iWatch.
It's kind of confusing. The acronym is CMD, although the full breakout is Connected Command Display, which would technically be CCD. First of all, the startup animation looks awesome. It almost looks like the screen is OLED because the screen gets pitch black, but I'm pretty sure it's not. If it was, that'd be advertised all over the place. Now, in order to get control of this menu, you are going to press the plus icon, and when you're in this mode, the controller is completely unusable for gaming, so none of your buttons are going to do anything on screen until you press plus again. But we're going to go ahead and hit plus, and then press Y to enter the main menu, and now you can use the D-pad and D-pad only to scroll left and right. So the right analog stick, left analog stick don't do anything. The main practical function of the screen is going to be swapping the 10 onboard profiles. I do like that you have 10, one for each of your favorite games. Then you also have a headset mixer, which is currently grayed out because nothing is plugged to that 3.5mm jack, but it will give you a nice visual representation of your chat game blend as well as your output, so you can control your volume. Rear buttons you can actually rebind on the fly, which is fantastic. You don't even need the application, just press buttons and bam, you have P1 through P4. Select one and you will be able to select your input. Then you also have axis mappings for both the sticks as well as both the triggers. Really in-depth, a lot of control from this little screen, which is fantastic. You can even set up your dead zones from the controller. Vibration strength, you got your left side. That's cool, and it actually vibrates in the controller. And then as you press the bumpers, that's right side, left trigger, right trigger. Total control here of the vibration motors. Then under lighting, you have the color, effects, effect speed, back over here to color. Then you can also get third-party apps connected through this program, which is fantastic. Then you have your system settings, such as your firmware updates, which you are going to need to be connected to an Xbox or PC to do that, obviously, because you're going to need an internet connection. Calibration, which you can do if you're starting to develop drift, and you can taper your screen brightness. The charging LED, choose how long you want the screen to time out. Yeah, a ton of options here. And this is the only one that I found a little bit silly, and it's cool you have the option, but it's social media alerts pinged directly from your phone. That's the last thing I want. When I'm gaming, I'm trying to escape the harsh realities of the world and plummet myself into a very immersive world. So I don't even want notifications on my phone, but definitely not popping up on the little screen on my controller. But the option is there for you. And overall, I think this screen actually adds a lot to the controller, which I don't think I've ever said about an onboard screen. As for the bumpers, they are in a good ergonomic position where you can actuate them with the meat of your finger by extending your index or with the tip. If you have larger fingers, you might reach up and over and just hit the top of the controller and not actuate the bumper. But for me, I had no issues. I also do like the stippling with these little dots. Actually, it's not dots. It's like little triangles and it does provide a good amount of grip. They are mechanical as well, which I really do like. They're not overly loud, and they do have a nice amount of resistance and a nice tactile click to where even if you have a headset on, you're gonna feel that little tactile click in your finger and know that you actuated the bumpers. So I'm gonna give them a 9 out of 10. As for the triggers, you do have two-way trigger stops, so simple on-off joints, and they don't make it a mechanical mouse-like switch when you turn them on. It's just a little plastic peg that slides out and stops the trigger from being pulled all the way. I'm overlaying a little B-roll from a teardown where I demonstrate exactly what I'm talking about, but these do work phenomenally as they do cut out about 95% of the pull, almost all of it, which is exactly what you want from on-off trigger stops. So when you're playing those competitive shooters, all you gotta do is sneeze and you're dumping the mag. Love them. They also have a good amount of travel and a nice amount of resistance, so I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10. Repeat, 9 out of 10. As with the rear buttons or back paddles, Turtle Beach did not F this up. In fact, they executed this quite well. These inner buttons are very easy to hit where you want to naturally hold the palm grips. Your middle fingers are going to be resting on them, and with just a slight extension, you can hit these inner buttons. Actually, you don't even really need to extend them. You kind of just press inward, so technically you can cover all 4 buttons simultaneously. You could also use a modified grip like this. This is not comfortable, but I know some people like to rock a grip like this if that is your prerogative, but me, I just like to hold it like the good Lord intended, and it feels pretty ergonomically comfortable. My only complaint is it is a little bit louder than I'd like. Not the loudest rear buttons or back paddles by any means, but I wish they were just a skosh quieter. But I think my grandest complaint with these rear buttons is simply the surface material. This plastic feels incredibly cheap, and it's not really satisfying to press these buttons. As far as the surface material or plastics are concerned, the actual ergonomics aren't bad. I mean, these buttons easy to hit. These ones also not a struggle to hit. Better surface material like a nice rubberized coating or better plastics, but I'm gonna give them a 7 out of 10. Little room for improvement in there for their next version or iteration. In order to get the software, the application to control this controller, it is Turtle Beach Control Center 2.0, and the only place to get it is the Microsoft Store. If you actually just do a Google search and go to the Turtle Beach landing page where it's going to have their support, their software, it is only the OG Control Center, which works with the Recon and HYPR controllers, which I've reviewed on the channel previously. These ones right here. But the new hotness, get this application, which only has 1 review, but it was a 4 out of 5 star, so that one customer was pretty stimulated. I'll be the second to gauge my stimulation with it, as I am going to give you a full walkthrough of the suite. Connect your Turtle Beach device. It is Stealth Ultra controller. Cosmetically, this looks really good so far. I do like the fact that you can full screen. Little issue right out of the gate. It's saying use the D-pad for navigation, A and B for select and back. None of that works. There we go. Now that I've clicked into the controller, I am able to control it with the D-pad. So let's get into it. Overview is going to be just that, a summary of all of these concurrent tabs. Now, the first thing I'm going to change is right here, these dead zones. 5% is 5 more than it should be. Let's take it right down to 0. You cannot navigate with the keyboard or mouse. You have to use the controller. I'd like if you could use both, but at least this is responsive. I can use the bumpers, tab through. So that's a little unfortunate. These are 5% increments. It'd be cool if you had fine control, 1 percentile, but that's okay. We're going to go to 0 on both sides. It would also be nice if there was some kind of a visual representation with these radial wheels where you would see your thumbstick moving around in real time, so you could see if you had drift, if that recentering spring was going out on you, but that's okay. Now you can also set up response curves such as precision, flat. I recommend standard as it is going to be linear, so the same speed and resistance applied as soon as you break the dead zone as you are getting when you're at the outside of the thumbstick gate. That's what I've always liked. First thing you should do is a firmware upgrade, which is going to be in the top right. Get there. Bam. Holy shit, it is a slow update for a controller. My dudes, it has been a couple minutes. I left the room, came back, and it's still just creeping. Also, you can update the transceiver, or the dongle, I should say, and I do recommend that you do. In order to do that, you do need to plug it into your PC. Also, that's pretty cool. The LCD screen is indicating that it is currently engaged in an update. And furthermore than just having to plug in the dongle, you actually need to have the controller connected to the dongle to do the update, which is a little quirky. So I'm having a pretty major issue, not with my hair, but with the controller, as it is stuck on the LCD screen showing that it is mid-update. I can use this controller fully. I can play with it on Steam. I can play with it on Xbox. Yes, it still says it's mid-update, but that screen has now become unusable, which is unfortunate. And I've already reset my controller with that little pinhole in the back using a sim popper needle. Yeah, that's a huge issue, which I'm sure will get remedied with a patch or update. That's one of the key features of this controller, and it's now unusable. All right, so this is a huge issue, and it'll most likely be remedied on the 15th when this is officially
officially released. However, since I got an early unit here, I'm running into this issue where it takes 7 minutes and 20 seconds to complete this firmware update, but then it tells me an error message saying firmware update not complete on the controller, thus bricking the screen, the main feature of this controller, to where I can't do anything with it, such as swapping profiles. And I did mention it was 7+ minutes to do this update for the controller, but it is also 5 minutes and 14 seconds to update the dongle or transmitter. So add that up, that's longer than the 30 to 45 seconds that a controller update should be.
So I finally got it to successfully update. I think the trick here is to sit there for the 7 minute and 40 something second update, and you need to leave the window up and not minimized in order for the update to successfully be done. However, there is actually an Xbox application which is pretty damn good, and if you update through that, you probably won't have the same issues that I ran into on PC, which is fantastic. So use the Xbox version. It's probably smoother than PC, at least at launch, until they smooth this sucker out with a few patches and updates, because my golly. Another huge complaint is there is no way to minimize it, close it. Once it's open, it is taking up your full screen, and pressing escape on your keyboard doesn't do anything. Pressing back on your controller doesn't do anything. You literally need to hit the Windows key on your keyboard and then just right click it and close it. Can we get the minimize and close icons in the top right with the next version? Good lordy. So this will get smoother over time, but right now it's very janky. A lot of times I click and nothing happens, but when it is up and running, it is quite smooth. You use the bumpers to scroll between the tabs. Oh, see, it's stuttering and sputtering a little bit. It's going to get smoother with patches and updates. You can set up a multitude of local profiles. It looks like 10 by default, but I think you can add even more than that. And then in device memory, you do have 10 slots as well, which are synced to an onboard flash memory, which is sweet. You do need to do some setup at first, but then you have profiles on the fly that you can swap with that little screen. In the buttons tab, this is strictly going to be for P1 through 4, which is the rear buttons. Let's set that up now. And there is no apply button. This takes effect in real time. Now in the audio tab, because Turtle Beach is primarily known for their headsets, they're going to have the same capabilities here with superhuman hearing, which is a feature that I always bash on because it artificially enhances the mid-range where footsteps would be, which makes your game sound completely terrible. It sounds like you're underwater or through a tin can, but you can hear very loud clippity clops of boots, which some people say is an unfair advantage. I just think it's kind of dumb because you're not actually getting better at the game organically by listening for the same audio cues as everyone else. You're listening for some weird frequencies pumped in through your headset or controller. So I always leave that off and laugh about it. Mic monitoring is just that, feedback of your own voice. Game volume, this is going to be your chat game blend. 0 is going to be just your buddies yelling in your ear and you don't hear your game sound. And 10 is going to be your game blaring in your ear. That's down here. I don't know what I'm doing over here with game volume. That's just the overall master sound. We're going to pin it out to 10. But this is your chat game blend, and you can mic mute as well, which I would do so I'm not accidentally hot micing. You got your trigger dead zones, just minimums, not maximum, which other software suites have. No big deal though. Now the lighting tab is going to be your RGB lights. You do have these default colors. You can have a static or solid color. You can have breathing, which is fading in and out. Color cycle, which is rotating through the spectrum. Linear pulse, which is going through the colors one by one, fading in and out. Dynamic, the opposite of static, and you can control the speed. You do also have control of the vibration motors in both the palms and the triggers. If you want to eke out a little more battery life, you can reduce the screen brightness and have it time out a little bit earlier. This is the LED brightness for just the charge indicator. And if you're having any issues with your thumbsticks, you can click on calibration, move them to and fro a couple of times, and then stop, and that will calibrate them for you. They should be fine because they are Hall effect joints. Triggers, same thing. Give them a couple of linear squeezes and see what they do for you. That's the software suite. When it works, it's nice. And it's on the Xbox too, which is sweet. The battery on board this beast is monumental, not only in playtime, advertised at 30 hours, which I haven't been able to kill it yet, and I've spent quite a bit of time on the Xbox and PC. That's freaking awesome. But also, quick charging, 2 hours through USB 3.0 is going to get you right back topped off to 30 hours of playtime, which is phenomenal. The only other Xbox controller I can think of off top of the dome that's better than that would be the Elite Series 2, which is 40 hours. That's just advertised. I think it gets better than 40 hours, honestly. Going wired on the PC, we are going to get our first pull for the input lag or delay, and I'm going to assume it's about 2 milliseconds. Okay, let's double that at 4. So first pull here, we're at 3.8, so right around that 4 millisecond of input lag or delay mark on a 250 hertz stock clock. Relatively consistent as well, but let's run a few more so we can soak up that data like a chamois mixed sponge. Little less consistent on that one, but I think it was operator error, as there was more outliers that time, and I think I got a little bit sloppy on my spinning of the stick here. I'll take credit for effing that one up. Boom, but not that one, because I was steady spinning the whole time, and it's Still not the most consistent minimum and maximum, a little bit further from each other than I like to see, but definitely 4 milliseconds on a 250 hertz stock clock. Let's go wireless with the dongle. And as for the input lag or delay when going wireless with that included dongle, the exact same speeds you were getting tethered by wire, 4 milliseconds at 250 hertz. Not bad at all. To put the controller into Bluetooth discoverable mode with it powered on and paired to either the Xbox or PC, press the plus button, press the Y button, scroll over to connect and press A, and you will have a couple of options. The first one is going to be Xbox wireless for connection to the Xbox consoles or PC, but we're looking for this Bluetooth icon with smart devices. Sorry for the glare. Go ahead and press A, and you are going to have pairing mode by pressing Y. You'll see this button start to flash rapidly, and unfortunately this was not discoverable by my motherboard, by my PC. It is shown on the Turtle Beach landing page that Bluetooth is only for Android devices, not for connecting to PCs or consoles, and unfortunately that also was the case with my adapters, the XB2 for Xbox and the XE2 for PlayStation. I could not connect via Bluetooth to those adapters. And as far as overclocking, whether you're using the Lord of Mice or, well, that's the only overclocking software that I know of for controllers, but it is not susceptible to being overclocked as it is polling rate locked, which isn't really surprising. It is an Xbox platform controller. Even some PlayStation platform controllers, third-party ones, are polling rate locked, which means you cannot overclock them. So you're just stuck at the stock clock, which in this case isn't too bad. 4 milliseconds, whether you're going wired or wireless with that transmitter to the Xbox or PC. As for converter support, you can control the PlayStation 5, navigate the menus, even play PS4 games wired currently. Keep in mind you are limited to PS4 games. When you go to launch a PS5 title, you will get that notification telling you to use a proper DualSense. And as for the Switch, not that anybody's picking up this $200 Pro controller to play on Switch, but maybe you're picking it up for Xbox or PC and you also own a Switch and you'd like to use this with an adapter. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it working. As for the pros, cons, and verdict, let's start with the cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement with this controller. By far, the biggest head scratcher and rump scratcher here is going to be the process to get up and running with the software, at least on the PC side of the house. I'm sure that'll be a lot smoother at launch or shortly after launch, but for me, it wasn't a whole heck of a lot of fun. Also, they included thumbstick caps, those little generic slip over universal joints, as opposed to some actual dedicated thumbstick caps that pop off, like typical included accessories on a Pro controller. That's a con. And finally, that piano black on the top will collect fingerprints and micro scratches like nobody's business. You can see it already doing it. That's really all I got. On to the pros. Cosmetically, this is so gorgeous. Such a sick looking controller. The D-pad, phenomenal. Feels great. The thumbsticks, solid. Above average from the competitors. Face buttons felt phenomenal. The software suite, the application, good on both the Xbox Series consoles and the Windows PC. Ergonomics wise, this is one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever held, and I think one of the main factors of that is these palm grips. They keep your hands cool even in long gaming sessions, and they just feel like such a treat to hold. They are probably my favorite rubber grips. Yeah, as of now, these are like my favorite rubber grips. They feel so good, so good. The rear buttons, I'm going to list them as a pro, despite the fact if they had a little rubber coating on the back or better feeling plastics. These are really good. The stock input lag or delay at 4 milliseconds, both wired and wireless, is very good. Battery life at 30 hours is definitely a pro. I also like that carrying case. It provides a good amount of protection, and that little zipper pouch, which is kind of easy to miss what's in there, which is the dongle and the crappy caps, is nice to have that there too, and it doesn't put any accessories over the thumbsticks, cocking them out at a weird angle or anything like that. And you can charge the controller from that carrying case with the USB pass-through in the back. RGB lights, I think, are implemented really well on this controller, and you can dim or disable them, but I think it looks great, to be honest. I'm gonna leave it on. The next pro is this is the only third-party controller with a wireless dongle that I've ever seen where you can wake up the console. Generally, the only aftermarket controllers that can wake a console are the ones that start life as a stock PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo controller, and then are disassembled and customized from there. So things like AIM, Scuff, Battle Beaver, Hex, Megamod, Cinch, and many others that I can't think of right now but have been reviewed on the channel. But luckily, you just leave that stick-of-gum looking ass dongle plugged into the front or back of your Xbox, and you press the Xbox button and it wakes up your console. As for the verdict, this is just my initial impressions review. I don't have a whole hell of a lot of stick time with this bad boy just yet, and I will give a long-term owner's review down the road, things like reliability and any issues that popped up over time, but I really do like this for an Xbox and PC controller as of now. $200 is not cheap by any means, and if you caught my best Xbox controller video, $180 and plus is into the top tier, the flagship, most expensive balls to the wall controllers you can get, and this deserves
deserves to play with the big boys. It honestly does. Some really killer Hall effect sticks, a phenomenal D-pad, mechanical buttons, and some of the best ergonomics with these nice rubber grips, killer trigger stops that actually cut out most of the pull, mechanical bumpers. This thing looks cool. I'm liking this thing quite a bit. I'm not going to hog it all to myself. You can get them yourself. They are linked in the description below. Drop in the comment section below what you think of this controller or what you're using to play on Xbox currently, and I will see you Stallions and Stallionettes tomorrow. Peace.
If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at GamerHeaven. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of GamerHeaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting GamerHeaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.